Welcome, one and all. We are back here at Stately Torch Manor for Johnnie Torch Live number 7. Hi, how are you? Thanks for showing up. Starting the show a little bit earlier than I planned. I'm just impatient. What can you say? But, uh, unfortunately, we have to start the show with some sad news, of course. I'm sure everyone's heard by now the passing of the legendary Adam West at the age of 88 from a brief bout of leukemia, as it's being reported. I'm just devastated by this news. As I'm sure many people would agree, he was my Batman, and he'll always be the Batman to me, the legendary Adam West. Uh, Whenever anybody asks me who's my favorite Batman, that's always the toughest question because I always come back to Adam West. Adam West was the perfect incarnation of the Silver Age Batman. He was, of course, the first Batman that many of us ever saw, certainly the first Batman I ever saw as a child growing up watching the reruns, of course, I'm not that old, of the Batman TV show of the 60s. Always a favorite of mine. And I want to do a real tribute on the Torch News Roundup. I'm still having trouble catching up because, as I said, the YouTube editor was down for several days, and I couldn't really keep up with the output of videos because of that. So a little bit behind on making news roundups, but I would be remiss if I didn't make mention of Adam West's passing on the live broadcast. Uh, Obviously, a favorite of mine. One of the first introductions I had to superheroes and comic books was through Adam West's Batman, and just devastating. He's one of the last old guard that we had. Of course, he, was like royalty, showing up in various productions as himself in most cases, and it's just a staggering loss. Um, he his final project that I believe he completed was the animated movie sequel to the original movie that came out in October of last year, Return of the Caped Crusaders. As a matter of fact, I just watched that again recently, and I enjoyed it even more the second time. But there was a sequel in the works where he would be reprising the role of Batman, and um, William Shatner was going to play Two-Face. I'm pretty sure that that's been completed, and that we will be able to see another performance of Adam West as Batman vocally, but it'll still be his final performance posthumously. And I'm really going to look forward to that now. It's going to be very poignant, to say the least. And so, also, he was supposed to be in the what was the show called? The most recent show there on NBC with Vanessa Hudgens. I forgot the name of it already, and it's only been canceled for about a month. But there was a episode starring him of that show, and they didn't air it. It didn't broadcast. It was very, it was being hyped as another appearance of Adam West, and I don't know if that's ever going to be released to the public, but it definitely should be because, particularly now, everybody wants to see Adam West and as much as we can of him. So, unfortunately, we bid adieu to Mr. Adam West, one of the greats, and he will be sorely missed. All right, so a pretty decent segue, I suppose, would be to go to, let us talk about the Gotham Season 3 finale. This was a big one. This was 2 hours long, so I'm sure we could fill up quite some time talking about this. Don't want to go too overlong about it, though, because we want to talk about the DCEU. at the end of the show. Okay, so it was an eventful finale. Lots of stuff going on because of the 2 hour length. Very interesting that of all shows to get a 2 hour finale, it was Gotham this season. Usually it's Agents of Shield, which in this year they chose not to do that. I don't know why, but they did squeeze a lot of stuff in here. Um, I guess first off, we'll touch on the Bruce and Alfred subplot. Bruce was still being brainwashed by, as we come to find out, Ra's al Ghul. Ra's al Ghul is behind this sensei, I guess he's being called, that was trying to indoctrinate Bruce and essentially brainwashed him. Now, the actor they got to play Ra's al Ghul looked pretty much the most comic accurate of any actor to play the role. I thought he looked, uh, pretty good as the demon's head. Uh, and then, of course, we were introduced to the Lazarus Pit. Now, I pretty much knew as soon as we saw the Lazarus Pit that Alfred would have been fine. And, of course, that's the way it turned out. But I still don't really know. Would Bruce really run him through like that? I mean, they had the, get out of jail free card, so to speak, with the Lazarus Pit. But I don't know. That's kind of taking it pretty far. I don't know if I would have ever seen Bruce trying to kill Alfred, no matter what hypnosis he was under or whatever. Also strange that the Lazarus Pit didn't completely revive Alfred. He's like in a coma for like a full episode before coming out of it. But that was a great scene between them two, and when Bruce finally comes out of it and Alfred is revived, so to speak. Uh, really, really a good emotional core to the episode was that storyline. Even though it was probably, I don't know, like I said, it was probably. I don't know if I buy that Bruce would have killed Alfred under any kind of situation. All right, so also we have Fish Mooney returning. Fish was back. Fish was back in a great big way. Excuse me. I'm still recovering from this cold, as you might notice, so apologies in advance for any changes in my sound of my voice. But Fish Mooney's back. She was back last week. She abducted Penguin, absconded with him, so to speak. And I didn't really feel. It felt to me like it was unearned that all of a sudden she was forgiving Penguin and Penguin was pledging his loyalty to her. It felt very unearned because they obviously didn't have Fish back for the whole season. They just had her back for 2 episodes, and they tried to squash in this storyline where she reconnects with, Penguin, and everything's water under the bridge. But they just didn't have time to really sell that. So they did what they could with it, I suppose. And Fish is written out again, being killed for the. Is this the third time? I think this is the third time, is it, or is it the second time? But Fish is down and out, I guess, for the last time here. It looks like, and again, kind of underwhelming the way they dispatched her. I don't know. And then we have the Ed and Oswald dance. It's going to become tiresome, really. I wish they didn't make them two adversaries. Because where is this going to go from here? Where does this go from here with Penguin always going to try to kill the Riddler and Riddler always trying to kill the Penguin? They're going to off each other before Batman even becomes a thing. It's very strange, and that's why I thought it was a mistake to go where they did with this. Um, I kind of figured that Oswald had Ed set up with a convenient pin in the back seat. I mean, it's a police car. Where's there a hat pin going to be in a police car? So that really wasn't too much of a swerve there. I kind of saw what was coming, and I guess this rivalry is going to continue into next season. I'm I'm pretty tired of it at this point. I think they should have just maybe found a way to put an end to it. I don't know. We got the Iceberg Lounge coming into play next season. It looks like. Um, Penguin revealing plans for the Iceberg Lounge and being partners with Poison Ivy of all things, but that's interesting. We also had some Interesting character setups for the end of the season. We had Butch being taken out by Barbara. That was pretty interesting. It seemed like a pretty final send off, but then, spoilers, they had that little coda at the end where, Cyrus Gold. When's the last time we heard that name? That was in The Flash, remember? Well, it was in Arrow in the introduction of The Flash. They never brought him back. Maybe that's why they decided to try to use him here, but Solomon Grundy, obviously, who I'm referring to. So it looks like Butch is going to turn into Solomon Grundy next season, which I don't know. I was like Butch, kind of didn't want to see him go. I mean, you know, Solomon Grundy's sort of a monosyllabic. You're not really going to get too much acting out of Solomon Grundy, I don't think. But it'll be good to keep Butch around anyway, I suppose. I'm a little disappointed if Babs was killed off that easily. There was that final confrontation between her and Tabitha. I don't know. I mean, I think they could do more with Barbara than they can with Tabitha, but at least they are doing something pretty proactive with Tabitha by having Selena finally get under her wing. It needed to happen for a long time. Because Tabitha was supposed to be this inspiration to Selena with the whip and the catsuit type trappings that she wears. So, it's about time they kind of put her under her wing and try to show some of Selena's, growth under a mentor. I thought that was pretty good. A couple of things left lingering for next season as well. We have Barnes missing in action as the executioner. He just not even mentioned here. Ditto the half in the grave Bruce clone. Anybody remember the Bruce clone? Whatever happened to him? He looked like he was not long for the world last we seen him. And I'm not sure I remember what happened to Hugo Strange. He cut out, I guess, during the excitement. But I'm sure he'll be back probably for a couple episodes next season. Of course, Gotham will be back next season. They'll be back on Thursday nights, changing their schedule. And of course, we gotta wrap up the story of Jim Gordon. He had the Alice virus, and Jim got the intestinal fortitude to love the badge more than the darkness. A heartwarming thought. I actually thought the concept was executed better here than on Arrow. When you think of it, it's almost the same, the same thing they were going for here. Does Jim really embrace the darkness more than he lets on? And will he give in to the darkness? And that's really where he belongs. In a way, to the show's credit, I kind of bought it a little more here. But, of course, I never seen Jim Gordon as a dark character. I mean, just like I never saw Oliver Queen as a dark character, but I suppose Oliver Queen is more justified with a quote unquote 5 years in hell. But, in this case, having seen what we've seen on this show with Jim Gordon killing Galavan and all the other crazy shenanigans, eh, maybe I bought it a little more here. I don't know. So Lee looks like she's taking it on the lam. Not entirely surprised about that either, because as I said, don't know what they could do with her anymore at this point. I really think they should leave her out of it for a season, maybe two, before they try to bring her back in and do anything with her. Um, and of course, what everybody's probably talking about, the big finish of the episode, we have a teenage Bruce in a proto costume. Now, I called this back in season 2. I said we're going to have a teenage Bruce Wayne jumping off rooftops dressed in a proto Batman costume because they just can't do anything else with the character. There isn't too much else they can do unless they want to send him off on a travelogue subplot, a hero's journey where he goes from you know towns in Tibet and stuff. I don't think they're going to do that because they want to keep him connected to Alfred. They want to keep him connected to Selena. They want to keep him connected to Jim Gordon to some extent. So they're probably going to put him in a costume and let him learn on the job, so to speak, and just get out there and keep doing things, until he finally comes upon the idea that it's a bat motif he's been missing all this time. So, yeah, it was a decent finale. It was a decent season. I think if I was to wrap it up, I'd have to say I think this season Probably the best of the three. I think it was the most consistent. Let's put it that way. Um, Trying to think. I've ranked. I mean, I've given scores of the last two seasons. I've given them 2.5 stars. This one was probably a little bit better, maybe. Uh, Consistency wise, there wasn't no long stretches where I was like, "Oh gosh, why am I watching this show? I can't stand it. I don't want to see anymore." There wasn't really anything like that this time. Last season we had, what was it? Penguin was in Arkham for it felt like an eternity, and um, Jim was in jail, and I mean there was just a lot of stuff that was just like way too much. This year we had the Penguin running for mayor, which is a common trope in the Batman legacy. Penguin always runs for mayor and sometimes wins. Well, didn't really like the Penguin Riddler adversarial relationship. Could have done without that. The Mad Hatter being a villain was pretty good. I liked it at first. I think that he wore out his welcome. They leaned on him a little too much. Jerome was back again. Probably it was good and bad. Jerome was back. That was good. I don't know. He wasn't really. I don't think he was as amusing this time as he was last time, last season. But still, that was a plus. Having Jerome return. Mm, the off and on again with Lee. It was what it was. Not too sure how to rank that. But and then the Bruce Wayne subplot that not too thrilled about it. It dragged on a bit, but all in all, I'll probably just give this another like the last two seasons. I'm gonna give Gotham season 3 2.5 stars out of 5. Pretty much all I can do for this show is just to give it slightly below average grades. Of course, the subplot with Selina's mother. See, this is another thing. I usually try to do a video, you know, that encompasses the whole season. I don't know if I'm going to do that with any of the shows this season because it's going to be very time consuming. And as it is, I've fallen behind trying to, catch up with a lot of the stuff that I've still yet to make videos about that I want to. So, just for the sake of it, I'm thinking about the season as a whole today on Gotham, and the resolution of the Selina's mother subplot was sad, but it was pretty much what I expected of it, I guess. So that wasn't too bad. We saw Mr. Freeze return. Didn't do much with him. Poison Ivy, of course, getting the growth spurt, which I don't know. They really didn't do enough with her, but I don't think it was a bad idea as much as it's impractical that we have to imagine she's still mentally a 12-year-old or whatever she was. So, as usual, conflicted feelings about Gotham. Of course, Harvey Bullock being, one of the mainstays as usual of one of the better parts of the show. Uh, he was brought to the forefront a little bit more. I still don't like him as a captain, police captain, but yeah. And we saw the Riddler emerge more so to the forefront than before. What else? Hmm. Yeah, they did a lot with Riddler this season that was pretty good, I would have to say. Two-Face has been completely gone. I can understand because there's not much you can do with Harvey Dent until he becomes Two-Face, and I guess they don't want to make him Two-Face yet because they're trying to drag that along, but he wasn't even in any of the episodes this season, I don't think. I'm pretty sure they just pretended like he didn't even exist. I thought it was a little confusing to begin with that they would put Harvey Dent in so early. They should have made him like a childhood friend of Bruce. That's the way that it's usually played. All right, so we'll bid a fond farewell to Gotham until next season. I believe, what is it, September is when they return? I think so. All right, let us move on now. We're going to talk a little bit more about, since Wonder Woman was released, I thought it'd be interesting to revisit the DCEU. Now, another reason why I'm doing this is because I watched all the DCEU films leading up to Wonder Woman, went through them all again, and I don't think much has changed in my feelings about any of them. You can see in the various reviews I've done. I should probably try to get some cards up of him because I've reviewed all the DCEU movies at this point. Not counting Green Lantern, I guess that's not considered a part of the DCEU, but I watched that one too recently. And I still like Green Lantern. I think Green Lantern wasn't, this abomination that they had to reboot the DCEU. If they kept Green Lantern as the template, it would have been much better than the sort of dour, dark, unpleasant DCEU that we've gotten. All right, let us count them down, and I will look over them and give you my thoughts on all of them. All right, there are, like I said, strictly speaking, 4 DCEU movies in the canon. Coming up at number 4, we have Man of Steel. Still my least favorite movie in the genre, in the canon of the DCEU. It's just abysmal to me. I appreciate the people that are out there that are fans of it. I like Henry Cavill. I think he'll make a great Superman. I think he does as well as can be expected with the part that he's been given. The problem with me for the films has never been Henry Cavill. He's a good, genuine Superman, and you could tell listening to the interviews with him that he really appreciates the character. He admires the part that he's been given, but they just haven't given him this beacon of hope that he's supposed to be. He's always down and conflicted and dour, and his father, both of them actually, but um, you know, Pa Kent never really instilled in him the, you know, go out there and save humanity lessons that are typical for Superman. And the same thing with, Martha Kent too as well. You know, that's getting more into Batman v Superman territory, but you don't get the sense from his Earth parents that he was raised with these values that he's going to go out there and help humanity. And he's sort of, as I said in my Wonder Woman review, it feels like he's dragged to it kicking and screaming. That everyone's telling him, we don't want you to do this. We don't need your help. We don't want your help. And then there's a bunch of people that are in trouble and they're thankful that he helps them. But there's no sense of the world accepting him. It's the strangest thing that when you do see Batman v Superman and there's the big Superman statue, it makes me wonder who financed that thing, because it seems like all of the public servants or, public officials wouldn't give him the time of day, let alone build a monument to him. Um, the average person in these movies don't want to really ever end up standing up for him and saying anything. It's like a lot different than like the Avengers, let's say, where at the end of the movie there's this great public outcry that the Avengers are so great and they save the day and everything. That's probably what this movie would have needed. This movie needed to have people giving their public opinion that Superman is for us. Superman is someone we look up to. Superman is good and an example to us. That's what Superman is supposed to be. He's supposed to be the example to us. And and then of course, when we're talking about the movie itself, we're just talking right now about Zack Snyder's warped impressions of Superman. And of course, I don't think we've mentioned it either here or in the news roundups, but our prayers go out to Zack Snyder and his wife and his family for the tragedy, that tragedy of his daughter committing suicide. There's no words possible to express the true horror of that. And so I you know don't take nothing away from Zack Snyder as a person, but he doesn't understand Superman or Batman for that matter. Again, not to get too far ahead, but he doesn't understand the core concepts of these characters to really truly, take them to success the way Patty Jenkins took Wonder Woman. That is not going to happen under their watch, under Snyder's watch. Anyhow, so talking again once again about Superman, I mean about Man of Steel. You have the convoluted reimagining of Krypton. Superman's the first normal birth in 1,000 years or whatever. Completely unnecessary. Like I said in my review, I think that's something to do with John Byrne's uh, version. Never liked John Byrne's version, so them taking it from there doesn't do any favors. Didn't like the codex, the whole subplot where Kryptonians are bred for certain things. Zod was bred, completely single-minded in his, you know, desire to protect and further Krypton. It just, it just it tried to make Zod, who was seen more as a Satan character, it tried to make him sympathetic. And, to an extent, of course, he was a genocidal, crazy man, but, you can't always make sense of the villain. I mean, the villain sometimes just wants to conquer. The villain doesn't have to be sympathetic all the time. And Zod is one of those types where he should not be portrayed as sympathetic. Now, again, like the cast, I liked everybody. Michael Shannon did as good as he could have expected. He didn't transcend the role the way I thought he would or should. He had the, I will find him moment, but he never really felt like he was the kind of General Zod that, would lead, people into battle. It just didn't feel like he reached that level to me. Amy Adams, thought she was perfect as Lois Lane. Didn't really give her anything to do here. I mean, we got a couple of glimpses of early on of her as the plucky reporter, and that was pretty cool. But I don't know. Again, a lot of changes to the mythos. Jor-El is killed needlessly before Krypton even explodes. We don't really, need that because, like I said, once again in my review, there's no reason for, it doesn't come up again later in the film. Superman finds out that Zod killed his father, and it could have been a revenge plot, which thankfully it doesn't turn into, but there was no need for it then. It was just, well, let's kill Jor-El because we never had Zod kill Jor-El, and we got to make it different. Completely unnecessary. Clark Kent's persona pretty much completely eliminated from the whole operation here. We don't get Clark Kent until the very end of the movie, and when we do get Clark Kent, Lois already knows who he is. That's one of the fundamental problems. Lois should not know Clark Kent is Superman, at least this early. I personally always preferred it that she didn't know, and that Superman's sacrifice for his own, gratification is to protect all humanity. That's something that was really defined well in the Reeve movies. That he doesn't, seek personal gratification. It has to serve humanity, and that is his calling. So here, when you have him and Lois together already before he even plays the part of Clark Kent, it wastes, it throws away the triangle, which that's what the going back even to the Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster days, that was a big part of the character, the triangle there where Superman wants to win Lois as Clark, but Lois doesn't see Clark. Lois sees Superman, and so Superman is in sense competing with Clark. That is like a great concept that was basically built for Superman that doesn't even get the slightest hint of recognition in this film. So there's a lot of things, and then like I said, the dourness, the bleakness. It's very depressing, very disappointing. The carnage, of course, a lot of people didn't like. I wasn't crazy about it either. It just felt like repetitious action for the sake of it. Um, what can I say? That's about all I can say for Man of Steel. I gave it, I think, 2.5 stars out of 5. That's about the best I could probably do with that film. And like I said, if you like that film, I appreciate honesty that you like it. Mm, I can't really find anything about it. All right, that was number 4. Coming in at number 3, we have Batman v Superman. Yes, that's right. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. And here, much like Man of Steel, we just got to go off of that. Now, I felt after Man of Steel, I said, okay, at least we've got the origin down pat. Let's take it from here. Let's go off into the bright sunshine and happiness, and we're going to see Superman as the people's hero. We're going to see Batman come in as the dark, vigilante that will challenge Superman to, you know, go out of his comfort zone because Batman is going to be a little more dark, a little more brutal to his to the enemy. But this film totally falls apart. The whole first half, very difficult for me to sit through. Once again, Superman. They I won't belabor this because we pretty much covered it in the Man of Steel segment, but pretty much, he's dour. He's like looking like he's constipated, helping people. He's not really this beacon of light and hope because everybody's throwing cans at him or whatever. It just isn't the way Superman is meant to be represented as a bleak figure. Superman is supposed to be smiling. Superman is supposed to be the one that you go to when he holds his hand out and he helps you. Basically, what Wonder Woman was, once again, I don't want to repeat myself, but he's supposed to be the example we're supposed to follow. Now, conversely, here I'll get into a little bit about the problem with Batman. Of course, once again, Ben Affleck did a great job. I don't really have a problem with the way he played Batman or Bruce Wayne, for that matter. It's kind of more in the mold of the Michael Keaton Batman, which I was never that impressed with. The Batman that's kind of dark, doesn't say anything, and just gets brutal on everyone. And that's the problem. Now, even like I said in my review about this film, The Dark Knight, the Dark Knight trilogy, basically the most important fundamental core to that was the one rule, and Batman won't kill, and it separates us from them. Very important message that was true of the character and is still true to the character. But they completely throw it out here. I would be able to accept it easier. Not that I ever really accepted Batman 89, his killing, but I would accept it easier if there was some growth. And we were able to see the growth or the decline. Let's put it that way, the decline. See, because we start so late in Batman's career, Batman's already like 42 or something in this movie. I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's getting gray at the temples. He's like 42 years old or something. He's already gone through Robins. He's already gone through fighting the Joker a dozen and a half times. At this point, he's jaded and he's dark and all this and that. But we haven't seen the idealistic side of Batman, the original Batman that was the idealistic, going out there with the one rule, making sure that no matter how brutal he was, he did not cross the line. This is a Batman that already crossed the line. We don't see him before he crossed that line. He's already been crossing this line, obviously. And it's a very difficult thing to then say, all right, he's going to go back now and be the hero that he was because of his, contact with Superman challenging him after Superman's death to go back to his, idealistic ways. I argue that you can't really do that and be effective unless we've seen him being a idealistic hero. We didn't see him with any of the Robins. We didn't see that. Is this the same way he was when he was with the Robins, brutally killing people, shooting with the Batmobile, running over people with the Batmobile? So this iteration of Batman just doesn't work either. Not well, at any rate. And also, we have to remember the much maligned Martha scene. That's what I want to come to next. I said originally in my review that was a touching scene, and I still believe it is. Now, I'm not going to go back on anything I said if I'm telling my honest opinion. I thought that was a very good scene. From about that scene on, I thought that the movie was actually pretty good. I liked the addition of Wonder Woman showing up in the final battle, and I thought the final battle was really good. I liked Doomsday, but the idea was that, you know, Batman has gone so far. He's fallen so far in this movie. The one thing that is going to snap his mind back to reality is remembering his mother getting killed in that alley. And so when Superman says Martha, you might want to laugh and joke about the scene, but that is the only thing that is going to get Bruce Wayne's mind back to square one, back to where Batman was born, and remembering the original purpose of Batman, so that his nobody would die the way his mother died. That was the original purpose of Batman. That's what a lot of the movies end up forgetting. And it's no funnier than, in my opinion, it's no funnier than, in Civil War, Tony Stark has the same conclusion he comes to. Basically, he's like, yeah, okay, but you killed my mother, and he's got to go after Winter Soldier. He just got to. He's got to. And even the most recent Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where, Peter Quill's like, in a semi comical fashion, you broke my Walkman and you killed my mother. It's basically, it's not unlike that here. Basically, they just tried to do it in a, in a Snyder-esque, more brooding and dark setting, but I felt the intent was the same, and I think the result was pretty positive. I think that was one of the better scenes in the film. The way it was handled, maybe not so much, but the intent was there. That's all I'm going to say about that. The intent was there. Lex Luthor, of course, brings the movie down, with Jesse Eisenberg not really being the kind of Luthor we wanted. I don't mind a funnier Luthor. Like I said in my review, I think Gene Hackman is still, to me, the gold standard when it comes to Luthor. I still love his performance the best out of all the actors to play Luthor. Um, I even like the Luthor from the Superboy TV show, who was basically the Joker, but named Lex Luthor in that show. But I, you know, I don't see how they thought that was a good idea. I think the only reason why they put Eisenberg in it was to try to, lighten up a very bleak film by trying to have someone bring some humor. And he didn't really accomplish that all that much. If anybody's going to be recast, it probably should be him going forward. Or better still, they could just have it that his father's still alive and his father is the actual Lex Luthor, because part of the subplot of that whole film is his father is being referenced continuously. All right, we're going to have to move on now because I don't know how much time I have here. But as I said, a great introduction to Wonder Woman here. I thought Gal Gadot was great here. Doomsday came across pretty well. Don't think they should have killed off Superman so early in this run of films in this franchise, but you know, they were just trying to get this Justice League set up a lot earlier than probably feasible. Okay, so we are now at number 2. The number 2 movie in our DCEU ranking, drumroll please, is Suicide Squad. Yes, Suicide Squad. I generally believe this is a good movie. I, a lot of people are like, well, it was like, not so good and this and that. I think it was generally a good movie. The problem is it's not something that you really have to go back to. It's a movie about villains. So there's no real impetus to say, oh, I want to be, motivated, because no, these are all scumbags. You kind of have to be in the frame of mind seeing this movie to say, all right, it's the Dirty Dozen. It's scumbags that are going to, transcend their morality and do something positive. But I can understand it's not a masterpiece. It's like I said, I would probably put this on par with Green Lantern, the Ryan Reynolds movie. It's not a masterpiece, but then again, it does have a lot of positive attributes that get overlooked because some of it is not so great. First off, a lot of people will say the Enchantress is, a bad villain. I don't think necessarily she's a bad villain, but again, it's one of those situations where you have mortals, and they're dealing with something that you probably would expect to see, you know, maybe Shazam take on. And, that kind of was an interesting choice, but I don't think that's really it brings the movie down. Um, it's, if anything, underwhelming because there's no real ambition from because it was written so quickly and it was put together so quickly. I think that's probably why it shows that it's a little rough and a little rustic. I personally like the original or the opening. A lot of people don't like the opening too, about how they just play, you know, music and do some 5-minute skits on each character. But you needed that because, once again, this is not the Marvel universe where we had an origin story for Joker, we had an origin story for Harley, we had an origin story for Killer Croc. They had to basically induct these characters into the film in some normal way that would be able to, people could catch up to, that haven't read the comics for 30 years like most of us did. So I didn't find that to be a problem. I thought the music was used pretty well. Um, Harley Quinn obviously steals the show. Margot Robbie was just perfect as Harley. I didn't have a problem really with Jared Leto's Joker. I mean, not the trappings that I would like to see the Joker in, with the tattoos and the jackets without shirts and, weird stuff like that. I mean, that's more of a cosmetic thing. Kind of like I said, like Heath Ledger. I didn't like seeing Heath Ledger with the smeared on makeup and the greasy hair that he just puts a little greasy kid stuff in or whatever. That personally isn't the way I imagine the Joker to look, and it's the same thing here. I don't imagine the Joker to have the silver teeth, the grills, or whatever. But the way he was played was not too bad. He played him all right, with maybe a little bit better direction. I could see Leto back in the role again. I wouldn't have a problem with that. A lot of them steal the show, like Captain Boomerang, Jai Courtney. He was hilarious. Thought he was great, and and like a lot of people just at face value just don't get into the story. That's what it is too. I mean, it's not the most captivating story, but I actually liked Rick Flag, his whole thing with Deadshot going back and forth, and this is actually expanded on a little bit in the extended cut. Which, by the way, I didn't really talk about the extended cut because I only seen the theatrical when I reviewed it, and of course, I never made a video about the extended. But the extended cut shows a lot more of the back and forth between Deadshot and Rick Flag, and how much Rick Flag or how much the Enchantress, or actually June Moon, really meant to Rick Flag. And that's why at the end of the movie, it feels a lot more emotional weight at the end when he was, basically going to kill the Enchantress. I bought it. I liked the relationship between Rick Flag and Deadshot, Will Smith. Um, there was a couple other scenes with Harley that probably weren't needed, where she's like talking to the team and trying to psychoanalyze them or whatever. Not necessary. I can see why they were cut. There was the extra scene with Harley on the motorcycle trying to stop the Joker from getting away so that she could join him. It was an okay scene. I mean, probably not needed in the grand scheme of things, but it was fine. Um, Also, we had Amanda Waller was just great. Viola Davis, just great in the role here as Amanda Waller. She is, straight from the cartoons. If you watch the Justice League cartoon, the animated series, she was perfect. So, can't find any fault really there either. I mean, the cast was great. We had a couple of, brief glimpses of Batman so that we remember that this is in the DCEU. And I'm looking forward to seeing, particularly Harley. I mean, I don't suppose I really need to see a sequel to Suicide Squad. I would like to see Joker pop up again in the Batman with Ben Affleck. Would love to see Harley. We're going to see her again in Gotham City Sirens. I hope she's going to be with the Joker again in that movie at some point, because there is still so much more we need to see between them two that really hasn't come to the surface yet. But again, time will tell. I mean, again, Margot Robbie loves the character. She's great as Harley, and I think, there will be a pretty, you know, long franchise made out of Harley, at least in some form or other. They're going to try, I guess, to spin her off from Suicide Squad to Gotham City Sirens, then perhaps to a Batman movie. I don't know, but yeah. So I I think Suicide Squad. I mean, I can understand when I seen it at the movies. I was like, yeah, that was pretty good. And then when I seen it on the Blu-ray later on, I was like, I could see why people didn't like it. So this is another one of those situations where if you like Man of Steel, I guess I can understand that and appreciate it. If you don't like Suicide Squad, I guess I can understand and appreciate it. But to me, if you look a little bit deeper into the film, you should be able to appreciate some of these themes that they had coming out. Oh, just like I wanted to mention also Diablo. If you really look at it, Diablo's character arc, that's a great character arc. He's trying to be a pacifist. He basically killed his family, and then he comes out and he's at the end of the movie the hero out of all of them. Really, he takes on the brother Juggernaut there that the Enchantress revived, and he gets taken out, but he takes on that bad guy there, basically giving himself up for everyone else. There's some powerful stuff there. I mean, it's not just you know you got to look a little bit deeper, but it's not completely a bad film. Suicide Squad. I think it's very good. You should take a look at it again if you haven't. Okay, but of course there is one film better in the DCEU, and it's probably not going to surprise anybody, and it is, yep, Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. Just saw this one recently. Again, I just gave my review for this, so I don't know if I'm going to say anything that won't be repeating myself, but you know, Gal Gadot made the role her own, really did a great job. Patty Jenkins. See, that's one of the things I didn't like about the animated Wonder Woman movie, where Wonder Woman comes to man's world and she's like so condescending. She's like, "You let your men do this, and you let your men do that, and you you people are all crazy, and you're under a brutal patriarchy or whatever." This film doesn't do that at all. This film doesn't do it at all. Wonder Woman comes to America. She comes to London, I should say. She comes to man's world. Let's put it that way. And she's immediately trying to understand what the world is like. It's different from something she'd ever seen. It's not that she's going out there as some kind of zealot trying to, squash everybody's beliefs and change everybody's beliefs. But when she comes into opposition from people who are not doing their job, like those generals, she immediately speaks up and she immediately tells them that they should be ashamed that they're not doing what they are entrusted to do to protect people and to save people and this and that. And that is the reason why she's not saying that to them because they're men. She's not saying that to them because they're, this patriarchal society that's trying to keep women down and this and that. She's saying that because these are the people in charge. These are the leaders, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're not protecting the innocent. And that's what she's all about. She goes out there to protect the innocents. The same thing that Superman should be doing. I know I sound like a broken record probably with this, but she's the symbol of hope. She's like, especially the no man's land scene. I didn't get to talk about that enough in my review, but of course, that is one of the great scenes in all superhero films. That's one of the great scenes because she's like, injustice. She won't tolerate injustice. Let me put it that way. She won't tolerate injustice, and she's like, "You're not going to do something about this. Get behind me. Get behind me, because I'm going to do it." And that's the thing that makes Wonder Woman inspirational. Another one of the things that make Wonder Woman inspirational, of course. And I think they captured her essence of being, you know, um, well, what's the word I'm looking for? Inspirational in a sense of, she's, well, as I said before, she takes the people that are weakest, and let's put it this way, and props them up, saying, "You can be just as good, even if you're not good at this." Like I said, like with the Irish guy, he's not good at. He's like, still, there's worth to you. If you're not a good sharpshooter, you can still sing. And that's what I mean is something that, could have been very hokey, but coming from Wonder Woman, that's what she does. She ends up, giving the inspiration to people to be better and to do, you know, what they should be doing, even if it's not what they think they should be doing. And also, of course, like I said before, Steve Trevor was just great in this movie. Chris Pine was just wonderful. As I said in the Wonder Woman animated movie, he was a complete jerk. Didn't like him at all in that movie. I don't know why that movie gets such high praise, really, to be honest with you, because I don't think it does justice to Wonder Woman or Steve Trevor. But he's not a jerk in this movie. He's not trying to take advantage of Wonder Woman. He's not, leering at her or whatever. He's just like a decent guy, which is what he should be. And and he respects her, and that's one of the important things. That's the reason why their relationship works out so well, because they respect each other. He especially respects her. And one of the great things in their relationship was that they were willing to trust each other. And the ending, of course, was really tragic with Steve's sacrifice. Still hope they can get Chris Pine back in some capacity as Steve Trevor, the fourth or something in in the sequel, because the sequel, of course, is already greenlit. I don't think Patty Jenkins is attached to it yet, from what I know. But yeah, so that is, as we're gonna wrap it up here pretty soon, that is our top four ranking of the DCEU. Just to remind you, just to run over it again. Number 4, Man of Steel. Didn't really like it. Number 3, Batman v Superman. Some decent action at the end. I thought, you know, they kind of redeemed Batman, I guess, at the end. Not really a great movie up to that point, though. Number 2, Suicide Squad. Serviceable movie. It's not going to make anybody's top 10 lists. Doesn't make my top 10 list. Probably doesn't make my top 20 list. But a serviceable movie. Not every movie has to be a masterpiece. I think a lot of people want their movies to be 5-star masterpieces, and if they're not, then they consider them garbage. Not the case. Not so. And of course, number 1 so far, Wonder Woman. Wondering if Justice League can top Wonder Woman. That's going to be interesting to see, because you're going to have all the characters. We got the Flash coming in, Cyborg, Aquaman. Um, yeah, then we have, of course, the return of Batman, Wonder Woman. Going to see what happens with her, and of course, Superman's going to come back. We all know that. It's not really a spoiler, but yeah, that's the way it turns out. I was very pleased with Wonder Woman. I've got to see it again. Obviously, it's a great movie. I don't know if I put it on my top 10, because the top 10 is so that's probably fodder for another video, what my top 10 list looks like. But I think once Spider-Man Homecoming comes out, I'm going to do my, well, whatever it'll be, top 16. I'll rank them, the Marvel movies, and see how they stack up in the same way we did this here. Thank you for joining me. I am not going to cover the WWE. I don't think I have time for that here. Let's see. We've got Tapwrit winning the Belmont Stakes, the 149th Belmont Stakes today. So congratulations to Tapwrit. Also, what else has been going on? We've got the NBA Finals. We've got Cleveland Cavaliers won one finally last night, and so they're still breathing. We also have well, we have Golden State, of course, is already up 3-1, so it doesn't look like it's going to be. I don't think the Cavaliers are going to come back. That's just me. I mean, I'm not a big sports guy, but just out of curiosity, I try to follow and see what's going to happen. And so, once again, this is Johnnie Torch coming to you live from Stately Torch Manor. Thank you for listening to the show when it's not live, because nobody has been on, I don't think, in the chat room. I haven't seen anybody. I don't think anybody has been watching this show live. So, for the few people that do seem to find the show after it has wrapped up its live broadcast, thank you for joining and paying attention. A couple of things also about the channel. I've got the Torch News Roundup number 50. Want to try to get that done. I already reviewed the Spider-Man Homecoming trail, the third one. Didn't get it out yet, the video, because like I said, it was behind with the YouTube editor not working, and then I went to see Wonder Woman, so obviously that took precedence to do a Wonder Woman review. By the way, check out my Wonder Woman review. Check it out if you haven't already. Um, Also, check out my Batman 66 meets the Green Hornet review in honor of Adam West. And that about does it. That wraps it up. Thank you so very much for joining me yet again. This is Johnny Torch reminding you keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.